we are going to gently move on to Mustafa Ali, who publicly asked for his release, or he asked for his release and then publicly stated that he asked for his release, taking the Brody Lee approach to the situation, which, didn't work out too well for him. But, better luck to Mustafa Ali. He asked for his release. We still, as of recording, do not know whether he has been granted his release or not, but we're hoping that he is. He reportedly had a big fight with Vince McMahon over something, either creative, which is maybe how he's not on TV or being used. He asked for paternity leave, which is why he missed Survivor Series. And reportedly, he only had like 1 day of paternity leave. He didn't want extra time, and he's just been ready to come back since then and just has not been brought back. So a lot going on. We are still in the dark because besides him stating that he wanted his release, we really haven't heard anything else from him. We haven't heard anything from the company. I personally love Mustafa Ali. He released a video of a new character he was supposed to debut with a couple months ago, but it got nixed. It was for a New America character. It was super interesting. It was controversial because it was going to press on a lot of sensitive topics that, it's not all audiences are going to handle well, especially wrestling fan audiences. So, but it was exciting, and he is so good, such a natural talker that he was going to pull it off. And he's pulled off everything. He made the short-lived tag team with Mansoor very entertaining. He tried his best with Retribution. That was a shit sandwich that, it was actually just shit. He made it a sandwich. He put the bread, so he did something. He tried. But, and then there was his run, I love Kofi. Kofi Mania was great, and I was there for him winning the title. It was fucking fantastic. But that came at Ali's expense, and I've always felt bad about that. I don't know if I would change things because Mustafa was never going to win the WWE title. He was just going to be a contender for Bryan because Bryan wanted new, younger faces, and that was a big Bryan thing. So, what we got ended up being great despite how it ended. But, Mustafa's had it rough, and he was a guy that they did see. He was supposed to win Money in the Bank the year that Brock Lesnar won the match he wasn't in. And he was told right before he made his entrance that the plans had changed and he wasn't winning. He didn't even know who was going to win. He was just told to climb the ladder and don't grab the briefcase and just react. So he had to just stand there or on the ladder and react to Brock Lesnar's music hitting, and Brock Lesnar slowly making his way down to the ring where he had all this time where Mustafa could have grabbed the briefcase, but WWE loves to make people look dumb in that kind of way. And point is, he's had it rough for someone that was so close so many times to just doing great things. And now he's had enough and he wants to leave. So I am going to start with, and sorry to Paramore and My Chemical Romance, but you're going to have to follow pop punk princess Avril Lavigne, who's going to be so well spoken about this. So good luck to you guys following that.
Gosh. I thinking on what you said, Danny, the truth is there are so many times where Ali had the crowd behind him, and it felt like the right way for stories to progress was to have him get that W, and they just never gave it to him. Like, going back even further, the cruiserweight division. Like, he was a man who, like, they often spoke about, like, I don't know if you guys remember, but the heart and soul of 205 was him and Cedric Alexander. And when I think of peak 205, like, no offense to Pac / Adrian Neville or even Enzo, but when I think peak 205, I think of Buddy Murphy, I think of Mustafa Ali, and I think of Cedric Alexander. And it felt like we were so close to that cruiserweight title win for Ali. And then you mentioned it, Brian wanted new faces to work with. So he got pulled out of 205, what felt like right before that title win was coming. And then he became the contender there, but then he got hurt, and then Kofi took his spot. And then we were close to having when he was doing the Retribution stuff, we were going to get that Kofi match, which might not have been a title match, but it was going to be a good, like, rivalry WrestleMania match. And then Kofi just spoke on this. They took it away at the last minute. They just decided not to do it. And so many times this guy just felt like it was the natural next thing to follow him and to do something great with him. And they just never did it, whether it was outside circumstances or just whatever. They just never gave him the shot that he deserved. And I think he's more than capable. Like, I agree with you. I don't think he was ever going to become WWE champion. I think he's capable of being WWE champion. I think he's got the promo for it. I think he's got the looks for it. I think he's got the charisma for it. And I think he's got the moves to back it up. But I don't think it was ever in the cards for him, unfortunately. So I do hope he does get his release. I hope, they don't dick him around the way they did Brody. And it's honestly ballsy that he did it. Like, I don't know why he did it because he seems like a pretty smart guy. I don't think he would do it unless he thought there was a good chance of getting it. Or maybe he did this to pressure them into doing stuff with him because of the backlash, which I guess historically really hasn't worked. But who knows? I'm rooting for him either in WWE or elsewhere. I don't really know where he'd fit, really. Like, I don't think he's a big enough name to maybe just jump into AEW and thrive, even though I think, again, he has the talent to mix it up with everybody there. Yay, Impact, maybe. And I would love to see him in the junior division in New Japan. But who knows? Time will tell. But again, nothing but the best for him.
Okay, so I'm going to throw out some hyperbolic stuff. But before I do that, he had the best counter to the RKO ever. Hands down, 100%. But also, I got to correct something I said. I don't think he was going to win the WWE title off of Bryan in that feud. But I think he could have won it eventually, especially because he was going to win Money in the Bank. And he's not one of those guys that would have cash in and fail. They might have treated him like shit as champion and booked him really weak. But, and for anyone who hasn't seen it, go watch his Someone Like Me as WWE champion promo. It is fantastic. It is so good. It has sold me on him, and this is a lot of where my hyperbolic stuff is going to come in. I think he would thrive in AEW. I think he can walk right in and feud with Bryan Danielson and pick up where they left off. I think he is a better promo than 95% of the roster in AEW, who has a lot of good promos, and he is such a good character guy that he would go right up there with like Malachi and these guys who work so hard in their character. Not that he would be like supernatural or spooky or anything, just that he would put so much effort and creative thought into his character, and he would thrive. He would thrive in AEW. I honestly believe that. Like, he is so good. And it's weird because that's someone I wouldn't, to give credit to WWE, I would have never known how good he was if they didn't give him the opportunities that, they ultimately squandered, but still to the point where he did get over. He was supposed to be the SmackDown hacker. He was supposed to do a lot of things. And reportedly, he's really liked backstage, and he works very hard, and most people think he's really, really smart. James, you had something I've said has stirred something in you. So what was that?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't he also initially an alternate in the Cruiserweight Classic? Like, I don't think he was initially part of. Just think of, like, to bounce off of what you said, to go from being an alternate to being one of, because not everybody from that tournament got a contract. But to getting a contract with 205 and to taking advantage of every opportunity given to him, I might actually fall back on what I said too. I do think he could thrive in AEW. I think I was speaking more of how bloated the roster is with the big names, but I do agree. I think he has every bit of talent to thrive there and to be a star there.
Yeah, he's not Andrade. He's not getting lost in the freaking shuffle from day one.
There we go.
Come on. Yeah. No, I'm not going to force an Avril reference. There's plenty of time left. But yeah, sorry, we've kind of dominated this conversation, but very passionate about Mustafa Ali. He is low-key one of my favorite people in WWE for now until he's gone. But Paramore. No, I'm not going to force another song. Rev, you got a take on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think I am just as big as a Mustafa fan as you two are. His I think it was a trio of matches against Buddy Murphy and 205 Live that James referenced were fucking bangers. Oh, those were so good. Those golden days of 205 Live were some really good wrestling, especially when they were following that really good era of SmackDown with like top tier Moxley and AJ Styles and occasionally James Ellsworth. Like that era, that was like a solid 3 hours of wrestling, and it was so good. Mustafa is a guy that WWE has failed for such a long time. Once, I mean, I know, like I said, he did great on 205 Live. He put on some really good matches, but he's a guy who honestly is one of the most natural baby faces I've ever seen. He was so good at getting himself over and connecting with the crowd and being like, this is why I'm doing this. You know, because he, you know, a big part of his thing was that, you know, he is, he's a Muslim guy and he wants to come out and prove that not all of us, are, bad people or terrible people. You know, he was a cop in Chicago. Like, how do you not have this guy be so, like a top tier baby face? He was so unbelievably relatable. And then they inexplicably turn him heel. And he's still doing such a good job of getting heat, despite the fact that I can't root against this guy. And they keep giving him crap after crap after crap. And finally, so according to some reports I've seen, Vince told him he wanted Mustafa to do a gimmick that Mustafa said he would never do. And that's what led to the blow up between the two of them. A lot of rampant speculation that Vince wanted him to do some sort of stereotype gimmick, probably maybe something borderline terrorist-esque, maybe. Who knows? But again, that's speculation. But whatever it was, Mustafa wasn't here for it. And if that's his last straw, then so be it. And I hope they grant him his release, and I hope he goes somewhere and just absolutely kills it, whether it's as a heel or a babyface, because the man is insanely charismatic. He's insanely talented in the ring, and he's obviously got a lot of fresh ideas. You referenced his New America promo, Danny, and that looked amazing. And I'm upset I didn't get to see it. So hopefully he's released, he goes somewhere, and he just absolutely kills it wherever he is, because the guy fucking deserves it.
He really does. And let me just say, to reference his New America promo, we're probably pronouncing his name wrong because, WWE has just ingrained that into us. So, we say Mustafa instead of Mustafa.
Right.
But I do know a couple Mustafas, and they've never had a problem with that. So, I don't feel like terrible about that. But, I can't wait to see what he does next, because like you said, Rev, he was a cop in Chicago. He was a Muslim in America. He has had a lot of things that should make all of his success that much more impressive. And, it's also a lot, like, for a guy who's not like super old, to have been a cop and then now been mildly to very successful wrestler. It's impressive. It's a lot of work. So whatever he does, he's gonna work incredibly hard at it. Nope, not gonna do an MCR reference either. Chad, Mustafa deserves better. Not making jokes too much.
Let me go on record and say that Ali was the wrestler I never knew I needed until very recently. I missed a lot of the 205 Live, and then I went back and saw. I always knew he was a good worker, but from around the Money in the Bank time, I think that's when I really started paying attention. And then I was kind of like, this guy's good in the ring. He might be something. Then he hurt. I mean, just all the adversity that he faced and overcame already is enough to build this brilliant storyline to make this guy, if not the main champion, a hell of an intercontinental or United States champion. Him being the United States champion actually makes the most sense to me of anything, especially with the New America thing. He probably would have been the best. But anyway, I just feel like the way they paved his journey and then for it to be such a letdown was disgusting. I'm with you guys. I'm a huge Ali fan, especially as of late. They have to release him. I mean, I would assume that the pressure that he put on them is going to make them release him. I hope they don't dick him around like they did Brody and just make sure the hype dies down and then release him, because this guy is top tier talent. He's great on the mic. Vince McMahon told him personally, you're a good babyface. I don't think you're a good heel. He proved him wrong literally 2 weeks later. They gave him a stable, which was shit. He made lemonade out of that. I mean, they gave him gimmick after gimmick. They tied him with Mansoor. I don't want to say his name wrong. I think it's Mansoor. They tied him with Mansoor. That was a great fucking run for literally somebody that nobody's heard of, but 2 or 3 times.
And they literally just did that because they needed to get Mansoor a match for the Saudi show.
Right. And that literally heated up Raw for weeks. That was the only reason I was watching Raw for a minute. So I think they missed the opportunity to really hone in and create such a diamond with all the pressure they put around him, whether it had been a babyface or a heel. I absolutely saw him as a main champion, even though, like I said, I think US champion would have been awesome. But yeah, I think he'll do well wherever he goes. I hope he does get to go somewhere and show WWE that, yeah, I'm the man. I'm him.
Hopefully, and I think because of, WWE releasing so many people over the past year and a half, 2 years, it would be pretty messed up of them to deny it. And that is reportedly how some people backstage feel, that they can't, they can't really deny a release when they've just released so many, like, it hasn't even been a month since the last releases. So
it would
look due to budget cuts. Due to budget cuts.
It would look insanely petty if somebody was like, "Oh, like let me make your budget less," and they were like, "No."
So what I think they'll do is they'll give him his release, but then we'll start hearing reports that he's difficult to work with and that he has an attitude problem and he's full of himself. Like, kind of how we heard Bray Wyatt was difficult to work with a couple of weeks after he got released. I think we're going to hear some reports like that because that's their new way of being petty, instead, because they know they can't.
Yeah, it's the NFL trick. You fire your head coach and you'd be like, "Oh, like he was constantly clashing with the general manager and, he wasn't doing this and that with the players didn't like him." It's the same thing.
That's exactly what this would be, actually, now that you guys said it.
That's what happens when you have a sports agent running your company.